Good morning, everybody. My name is Jody. My husband David John and I have a small farm in the panhandle of North Idaho. These are our stories and adventures, so welcome to Moose Flats Farm. And I know I haven't posted anything in the last couple weeks. Came down with what I thought was a cold. Turns out it was a sinus infection, and I don't know if you've ever had one of those, but it quite literally just wipes you out. So unfortunately, I did get some projects done. I just didn't record any of it because I sounded horrible, and hopefully we can get through this without any major coughing attacks. And it is kind of windy and blustery today, so where do we start? Let's go out to the garden because we did get some stuff done in there, and then show you what else is going on. So let's start over in this bed that did have the forsythia in it. As you see, I've got it cleaned out, and I've got the Amish paste and Kellogg's breakfast. We do need to go through and prune some of the icky leaves off and get these guys tied up. And I did plant, just like in the other beds, onions. And at the end here, I planted peppers. What kind? Okay, these are going to be some spicy peppers. Over here in this bed, I have to do some tying up and cleaning up, but looking really good. The zucchinis here are starting to really take off. The little honeysuckle. The trumpet vine, and then this bed is looking really good. And the Cherokee purple is going to be my first big tomato setting fruit. And I have a couple others, like the cherry large here has got some babies on it. Got to get some more shavings down here, but these guys are looking good. More zucchinis. The cucumbers in there. And my blue columbine getting ready to bloom. Pretty little red rose. And then the dill in the center of this bed. And anywhere and everywhere that I have planted potatoes in the past, I have potatoes coming up, which I'm so glad now that I have a permanent potato bed. So definitely in these areas where I have the volunteer potatoes, gonna have to make sure I get them completely dug up this year. But in this bed, the couple, what were these? The pickling cucumbers are slowly coming on. The echinacea getting ready to bloom. My red, not columbine, clematis, climbing up, and it's getting ready to bloom. Little white rose and a little thing of echinacea. Over here we have the cilantro coming up with a sunflower. These cucumbers are being really, really slow. But over here, like I said, Cherokee purple, which is so funny because last year I couldn't get any of the Cherokee purples to go. But this whole bed over here, we have to come through and get the lower leaves cleaned off and get the volunteer raspberries cut out of here. But covered with blooms. These cucumbers look a little better. The little rose bed over here, my white shrub, it's covered in blooms. The milkweed. This little, what type of rose was this? Carpet rose is just taking off. The little mini roses. The fennel that I'm gonna let it bloom a little and then cut the flowers out. But this, my dark red, almost black rose, doesn't have any new growth coming on it. So I think I'm gonna have to fertilize it good. But my climbing rose with the echinacea, the climbing rose is got lots of blooms on it. And you can see down in here the Malabar spinach is starting to come up. And the main reason I planted it was to climb up here because I didn't think my climbing rose was going to do anything. So of course it does. But the corn and sunflower bed, the corn's looking really good. Volunteer potato. And the sunflowers only have like that spot right there that the corn didn't germinate. Or I accidentally pulled it out thinking it was grass. The little volunteer raspberry patch is absolutely loaded. This apple tree loaded with fruit. And here where I planted some green zucchini right along here, it did not germinate, but I did prune the apple to give it a little more shade. And then this raspberry. So I am going to go through and cut all the new growth back, and this fall, once it's done bearing fruit, I am going to cut it out of there because it really encroaches in the walkway, and right where the flowers are is right where the bees are, which is right at face level, and with David John being allergic to bee stings, probably not a good plant to have right in the main walkway. But the squash and scarlet runner beans over here are starting to take off. These ones are doing really good. And the little roses here that I thought had died, look at all that growth on them. And I will be pulling this bellflower out. I think the peony that I have in the greenhouse, I'm going to plant there. The huckleberry gold potatoes. These squashes over here, just overnight, just took off phenomenal. The strawberry bed, it's doing really good. I've been coming out once a day and picking about 4 cups of strawberries, which doesn't seem like a whole bunch, but I clean them and then put them in the freezer, and once I have all the strawberries done, I will then go through and make strawberry jam. The shade garden with the daylilies and hostas and ferns just looks amazing this year. Got to get that fence panel out of the way. But the oregano and Ranger russet potatoes. And this bed is pretty much emptied out, except for that one cauliflower. And it's still forming a head. It doesn't look like it's bolting, so not going to pick it yet. And let me show you these guys. And these are jack-o'-lantern pumpkins that when I planted the rest of my pumpkin patch, these ones hadn't germinated at all, so I just had set them in the greenhouse, and like 4 days later, these two decided to germinate. I am going to plant them in here with my winter squash that I'm going to have on the back end of this bed, so when they tangle everywhere, we'll still be able to get to where we're planting the green beans. So we've got to get these two guys planted. Volunteer sunflowers. And then my butternuts and delicatessa. It's like this little one right here. Look how much smaller it is compared to everything else. It just started to germinate. Which makes me kind of glad that I haven't gotten these guys planted yet, even though they really need to get planted. But I have to come up with a staking thing for my blackberries. They're starting to take off. And the little wild strawberry. As cool as it is, it's kind of invading everything, so it will be eradicated. And these beds over here are going to be the 3 with that in there. That is going to be our green bean bed. And the garlic is starting to scape, or sending up scapes, which means it's getting close to being ready. I did go through and harvest almost all of them, because you want to harvest the scapes before they get too big and they basically ruin your bulbs of garlic. And you can eat the scapes, just fry them up like green beans. They have about the same texture of a green bean, just with a slight garlic flavor. So got a bunch in the freezer because I like adding them to my green beans when I can them. But we're going to be doing garlic shrimp for dinner tonight, so I figured that will be our green bean substitute. But it's like in here, another volunteer potato. But the garlic scapes are these flower heads right here. These ones aren't quite big enough yet. What they'll do is they come out and they corkscrew. So about the time they reach their second, third corkscrew is when you want to cut them off. The shavings out here. And as far as the forsythia, I have it healed up in this tub right here with just shavings that I'm keeping it moist with. I'm going to be planting them in the 1-gallon pots, and then we'll have them for transplanting when we need to transplant them somewhere. But this volunteer raspberry is just covered again. And that's one of the things with raspberries is once you plant them somewhere and you go to move, you're going to be fighting raspberries everywhere, because that's where all of those that are in the garden is, because I did have a raspberry bed there and it is no more, but they're just still trying to grow there. But I did get, 8 or 9 of the forsythias planted down here along the fence. So I've got them planted along here, just kind of like a hedgerow. And then all the hop vine and everything over here. That one I'm going to have to get transplanted into a bigger pot just so it's got more room to grow. But look at that crazy knotweed. Basically goes from the edge of the deck all the way over. Hides the waterfall, but kind of shades the pond, which is a good thing. Got a third flower coming on my water lily. Really pretty. So let's go up and see if we can get into where the hoop house is. And I'm kind of on the fence on this because I love volunteer sunflowers, hence the reason I have them all over the place, and I really don't pull them out because Mother Nature planted them. But I may have to here to get into the hoop house. So, as you see, kind of a jungle of sunflowers right in the walkway. But got the scapes off of these garlic, and we got the horseradishes doing really good in there. Got the couple little clumps of chives that are doing good. Got a little of a mess right there to clean up. But in the hoop house itself, it is a hot mess. And even though the peas look really good and are blooming and absolutely phenomenal, because it's so hot, the pea pods themselves are just uber tough. So fortunately, I'm just going to cut them off and feed them to the birds. I am going to be pulling up the beets because they're just about ready to go, and doing pickled beets with them. Going to try to leave the carrots and just plant the peppers around the carrots. Fingers crossed, because the carrots aren't quite ready. But I've got most of the peppers brought out here to be planted. And I've got the spinach and radishes and everything collected out of here because they went super bolt. So let's take a walk through the bird yard and I'll show you where we got the pumpkins planted and maybe some baby surprises. And it's one of those, it's a garden feast or famine day for the birds because I got all the cabbages ripped out this morning and they'd never really, I got about 10 heads of cabbage, so it wasn't a complete loss. Plus, I'm turning the cabbage into eggs. But the mess for the chickens. The grapevine is absolutely covered with little grapes. And this area right here, I wound up putting black netting on because the chickens were just jumping through and eating the grape. Because you're naughty hens, aren't you? So we have been letting the chickens out to basically keep the weeds in this breezeway right here cleaned up before we get it planted with grass, just so I don't have to worry about a bunch of weeds coming up. But let's see if we can see the babies that are in here, because got multiple moms sitting on same nests and they're just being crazy weird. But I don't think we're going to be able to see any babies. They're hiding underneath those two moms. Not sure how many are in there. Or had they moved over here to this mom? I don't think so. But I do have two that hatched out about 2 weeks ago. Not sure from, sorry about that. Not sure from what mom, because at night and everything, they just crawl under a mom that's on a nest. But they're doing really good. I see one of them. Little guy right there. Oh, there's the other little one going for a swim. And even though that pond water looks really horrible, being that chartreuse green, it is, but I just cleaned it out like 2 days ago, and all it takes is 1 day of sunshine and it goes bright green. So I haven't had any goslings hatch, but I do have in the burn pile 3 mamas sitting, or 3 wannabe mamas sitting there. And I've got a board and I've just been laying some slash on top, just so they don't have to bake their brains in the sun. Let's go into the turkey pen and see if we can see what Lebron's did. So Lebron's, they're good. And they usually, where's the babies at, Mom? There's one. Where's the other one? So there we got one. She does have 2. And of course, they're on the other side of the fence. But they usually spend their time in the pumpkin patch. And look at this pumpkin patch, speaking of that. For this being the first year of having pumpkins here, or this soil being worked at all, I think it looks pretty phenomenal. The proof really be when we go to dig those potatoes out. Where are they? Oh. There you can kind of see them. And those were not her eggs. They are actually one of the other black hen's eggs, because her eggs weren't fertile and she'd gone broody, so I pulled her eggs and put the other turkey's eggs underneath her. And even though those babies are white with, or black with white on them, they're going to be going all black once they get a little bigger and fully feathered out, because black is a dominant color, and both the parents were black. But in between the two hoop houses, I've planted all my pumpkins. And they're looking really, really good. I did have a soaker hose on them, but it only soaked for like 5 feet and then stopped. So I put a drip system on it. And so yeah, hopefully this is gonna get full of pumpkins this year. But this little champagne grape over here is got fruit coming on it, so that is so cool. And it is getting big. There is 2 grapevines there, but all the fruit trees are putting on lots of new growth and looking good. The oregano under this one looks wonderful, and the mint under that one. So these 2 grapevines, this one had a little more winter kill than the other one, and the other one has got a whole bunch of grapes coming on it. The sweet pepper tower is just looking really good. And I wound up actually having to replant it. The first stuff I put in there just failed to grow. It's one of those, it's just been a kind of weird year for stuff. It's either doing really good or not doing good at all. But I did plant a couple sweet peppers down here, and don't be fooled, those are not jalapenos, those are nadapinos. And some bell peppers. The vine peaches, it's like, that one looks really good, and all of those look kind of sickly. Same with the Minnesota midgets. Kind of hit and miss on how well they're doing. But I have gotten the seed shed. Let me turn the light on. Seed shed kind of cleaned up. Still have a little mess on the desk, but other than that, It's cleaned up. And I just left the lights and everything attached because I really did like this setup. I just unplugged everything and moved it over. We will be putting paper down, and when the potatoes are ready to be harvested, they will be brought in here to dry and cure. The Christmas cactuses, say that, the Christmas cactus starts look really good. I just have them here in this window. And I've been leaving the, lights off. I have been leaving the door and everything open just to completely air it out. The volunteer bachelor button clump. The little window boxes, got to get out here and get the geraniums deadheaded. Another view of the strawberries. And our little Christmas tree. Well guys, this is where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you have a good day and a good week, and thank you for joining us on our adventure. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Until next time, bye for now.